Hello and welcome to Postcards 21. It's terribly bright here. I haven't got any lights on. I think I'll switch off the main. I don't know if that's any better. Anyway, welcome to Postcards 21. I'm going to do another Lord Wandsworth one, just a shorter one, so you needn't have to fly into panic if that isn't what you'd signed up for. The first thing to say is to register a small good-humoured apology to Peter Booth, old PYB. I said that he was president of Lord Wandsworth College. He isn't. He's president of the Sternians Association, which is in association with Lord Wandsworth College for student and former students, alumni. So a second message for James Harrison, that the picture of him in Radical is in the sewer. I previously thought it wasn't. James, I've still got a picture here, and if you want to send me yet still your address, you can have it. I'm a lifelong devotee of Gilbert and Sullivan. I was never in any of the school productions, but nevertheless, if you would like to register, you send me your address, and then I'll see what I can do. A last point, and a sort of telling off of Valerie Wibley, who I think I'm right in saying, and even if I'm not, I'm still going to say it, in 1970 took a small party of boys and girls to the production of The Mikado on the occasion of her daughter's, Sarah's, birthday. Well, there's two things to say. Firstly, that's a bit of a cheap outing for children, isn't it? And secondly, I wasn't even invited. Actually, I was invited, but she didn't invite me and I didn't go. So my education for Gilbert and Sullivan, which is pretty expensive, didn't start until I saw Iolanthe in 1972. Anyway, that's the end of the notices. Thanks to everybody like John Scheuer and Arthur Walsh and Colin Payton, and David Coppin, and the school itself, which amused me beyond measure, who has been kind enough to come in and say, you know, thank you for what you've done. I must stress very strongly that I have no connection with the school other than my memories and a few publications. And there's a new Sternian coming out. I was actually hoping, today is the 13th of April. I was actually hoping it might come through the letterbox this afternoon and I could, you know, go through it. What they just call unboxing, but unfortunately it hasn't, so I'm having to use last year's, or even the year before. I'm not certain actually. I suppose it's the year before. Anyway, here we are, something you might not have remembered or even seen, I don't know, on the front cover, boys and girls. It's amazed me that Lord Wandsworth took the decision to call students boys and girls, an independent school for boys and girls aged 11 to 18, it says on the door. And here they all are, looking suited and booted. I think this is the sixth form with the headmaster, I'm sure, and various glitterati in the front row. They do look. I was told that it is now £34,000 a year to go to Lord Wandsworth. Well, for that money, I could, if you go to the moon, couldn't you? Here's the headmaster saying a few words. His name is Mr. Adam Smith. I hope you enjoy taking time to read this edition of the Sternian with a hot cup of tea and a biscuit in hand. I've never met him, but he looks a good chap, I'm sure. So I'm not being my usual sneery self. There's a letter from the president, who is Swamem, Mr. Peter Booth, who is distantly related to Nelson. Well, there we are. Not Nelson Riddle, Horatio Nelson, Viscount Horatio Nelson. Few associations can boast that they have a membership whose age ranged from 16 to 105. Somebody in it who's 105. I don't think Tony Woolstone was that old. Yes. Well, I won't read out what I must congratulate Mike Sims for organising this magnificent 5-year reunion. What, people of 5 are going to it now? That's what the late Alan Corran referred to the good old 20 minutes ago. You know, when your appetite for nostalgia. There's even a Quercus club. Well, I think there was when I was there. In Wales. Quercus is Latin for oak tree, or oak, I suppose. And here is the climactic year. And there's Hazelby and Summerfield, which quite frankly looks the same as it ever did. In a way, that's a nice bit of continuity, isn't it? If you're interested, I will put the... if you're interested, they talk about the over 60s lunch. I think it's the over 60s farmers lunch. You don't have to be a farmer or be covered in manure or droppings or something to attend. I do have to stress that having seen the photographs, there was scarcely anybody. I think Mark Neuenhaus and Simon Clements were there, and I didn't know anybody else there. But they normally send along at least one person from Long Sutton, and so they should. I mean, that's nice. But I imagine, although it comes at a price, that you get a pretty good din-dins. Here's Ian Ellis, whom I remember very well, and I've also met in recent years, talking about Hazelvere and his school number. This might be of some reference to you, A947. It starts off, I think, without letters, and then it goes numerically, runs through to 1,000. I was B72, and Ian obviously preceded me by quite some years. So there we are. Here are the guys from the reunion of class of 78. So that's 1 year after me. And there they are, I think on a hillside, and I think that's Quentin Pond. Quentin Sands. And they're all on a boat with Bennett. Phil Bennett. And here's the Punch and Judy get together, which I mentioned before, which I didn't go to in Covent Garden. This is written by Eddie Gardner, who I've just noticed something, that P.J. Brown and Rob Sims. Oh, I see what's happened. They're talking about the reunion photograph. I thought they were talking about Iolanthe 72 with Susan Wolstenholme, Kay Barham, Marco Gorman, Mike Hass, threatening to beat everybody up if they didn't confess to being a fairy, probably. And the peers, many of whom have probably since that time been promoted to the House of Lords. And here's the get-together. They have these regional, I think through no fault of their own, sometimes they have regional things which don't work out quite so well. I was invited to go to a regional thing with only about 3 or 4 people, just done ad hoc. And occasionally go to the Hen and Chickens with Jonathan Whitehead, Keith Atkins, and Tim Hinton. And we have a good time. But, you know, we're all of us knocking on. And being me, of course, I feel about laughing at my own jokes, many of which I've never heard before, I have to say. And generally repeating myself. Here is a careers fair, which I think is a jolly good thing, actually. I could do with one now. There in the sports hall. There it is. In the sports hall. And they sort of do a mock interview. So that when you go to a real interview, you think it's a mock interview. didn't realise they were mocking all along. I knew we wouldn't have to go far without seeing some rugby. Written by Clive Hicks and Jill Kelly. And then there's something about Holistic Health Festival. It has to be admitted, with a physique like mine, I haven't been to it very often. Here we are with photos galore. I mean, at one time, this couldn't even have been done, could it? There we are. I hope that you know more of these people than I do. I can see Angus McSwan there, who is a journalist, or was a journalist. He may have retired by now, I don't know, Angus. I remember him. I'm hesitating because I don't want to miss anybody. Mark Newenhouse. Looks like Jimmy Tarbuck, I always think. Looks like Jimmy Tarbuck. He wouldn't mind my saying that, I'm sure. Well, if he did, he'll remember me, all right. News from the staff room, various people leaving and joining. A new house parent at Junior House who teaches maths and English. He will be arrested by the police. Oh, no, sorry, that's not it. Peter German. Is he going to teach German? God, a name like Pratt, I'm not surprised. Internal appointments. Oscar Hurd is assistant house parent at Sutton. Well, who could have seen that one coming? Mary Hicks and Vic Allen, who is a lady. It's rather nice, actually. Squidging and squapping for England. LWC has produced a number of sports enthusiasts who have gone on to play for England, including that glorious 2008, when no less than 3 Sternians joined the England Rugby 15. Johnny Wilkinson. Gosh, I didn't know that. They should have mentioned that. Hugo Monnier and Peter Richards. And here is the one and only, I'm putting this in especially for Valerie Whibley, who I hope is Guy Austin. There he is. They say there'll always be in England. Well, there'll always be a Guy Austin, I assure you. I'm flicking through this pretty quickly, but there is a lot to read here, really. Enormous amount of information. Here's the headmaster again with presumably the head girl. I actually went to a performance of Coriolanus, I hope I pronounced that correctly, at Queen Mary's. They have a theatre there, quite independent, sort of round theatre. They couldn't because Coriolanus involves a shooting, mortalities, at a college, an American college. It's all true. News to me, but most people there seem to know that, but I didn't. And I went along quite oblivious of the fact that it was a Lord Wandsworth production, far from the Gavin Hall, in Basingstoke, where I live, and with me was David Coppin, who possibly was in on the joke. So at the half time, we went round and met the head girl. And no, I'm not about to make a joke. A list of people who have passed away. Philip Hildersley, mentioned by me before. John Matson. David Hicks. He was 88. Tony Whibley. Jonathan Shepherd, who I also mentioned last time. Chris Webster, I knew him very well. A Knott scholar, a very resourceful man, I think. And I think, though he has died young, that he enjoyed his life. Toby Moyle, whose obituary I effectively wrote, and I knew Toby very well. Michael Gregovich, I'm not sure whether I knew Michael or whether I knew his brother. But nevertheless, he was a musician. I'm smiling because his audience was the world, wasn't it? And here's some write-ups of those who have passed away. In fact, I'm not even certain I knew these were here. Write-up for John Matson. They could have asked me to write up about Toby, I suppose, but they did. I'm not that well known. A whole page about Tony Whibley and various other people. And then there's a note about the Sternian farm, which is joined on to the college. Somebody asked me whether, in fact, the farm is independent. I think it probably is, but nice to think that they produce cheese and milk for the porridge, but I'm not sure that they do, actually. I wouldn't even presume to say that. And here's a list of the officers. Which, I'll see if there's anybody here I know. James Marshall, ever so nice, came to train us at rugger. I was the world's worst at rugger, and I'm not just saying that. I was. Hang on, having a little coffee. The milk's off, actually. Jamie Marshall, as we called him, came down to JH about 1971 and gave us some instruction on rugger. And it included, which half the time it didn't, what the rules were. And I think at the end of my 5 years of trying to avoid the ball completely, I didn't know what the rules were anyway. How many points you get for a try and a conversion and so forth. Probably 4 for the try and 2 for the conversion. Is that right? If it isn't, please write and tell me. A list of honorary members, some of whom obviously I know very well. The Reverend Robin Craig, Paul Davis. It'd be nice to see him back at some reunions. I'm surprised we haven't. But possibly that's because he's doing other things, knowing Paul. He was always out and about. Lifetime vice members, presidents, Charles Hallows, Tony Woolston, Alan Dyson, Peter Booth, and not forgetting Ian Kerr. Well, I'm not going to forget Ian Kerr. And on that note, there we are. There's the Acorn Gates. I gather they've remodeled the Acorn Gates. They've been rehung. And there they are in all their glory. If you go out through the Acorn Gates, you'll see the sports fields, won't you, and the walk up to Sutton. I would like to say that I have happy memories of the college, but not all of my memories by a long way are that happy. But I have memories. I was an unsuccessful student. Here's a copy of The Sower. I'm not sure that I've shown this before. I might have done. From 1975, which was the year that I left. I'm actually mentioned, I think. Big excitement. In the prize winners. So I won a prize for divinity. And I've been divine ever since. People joining. Mr. Lonnan, Mr. Newman, Mr. Watson, and Mr. Press. And those leaving, those joining, the Reverend Robin Craig and Paul Stevens. And here is Mr. Seelig getting married to Mrs. Seelig, who was the matron. She may have continued as a matron, I'm not sure. I think she played the double bass. If I'm wrong about that, Ruth, I apologize, but I think you were something of a musician. I didn't know you. The loss is all mine, but nevertheless, I think I'm right in saying that you were a musician. Various prize winners for ever more diverse aspects of human existence. Marco Gorman, Peter Flittner, Larry Jones, Simon Charles Iron, as he would have it, and my lifelong friend, C.G. Payton. Special prize for effort, M.L. Baxendale. I won't read all the other ones out. Peter Coulson won a prize for being nearly as overweight as I am. Don't put me in prison for that, Peter. I can just hear Simon Clement saying, he can put you in prison, you know. Here we have various obituaries. George Warner has died. And Ray Holdaway, I remember him. And Mr. Hutchinson. Hutch. The editor adds a little point that Bert Hopkins looked like a local cleric, and they went into the vicarage or something to move a dresser base or something, and they exited without let or hindrance. Just says it's not a question of what you know, but who you know. And here is Bill Fryer, with customary modesty, refuses to let us publish, I'm quoting this, extempore, what he calls an obituary. And here are the scruffy, long-haired, good-for-nothing prefects. There they are. If you know who those are, don't ring us, and we won't ring you. Here's a very nice, having taken his character when say he looked like Jimmy Tarbuck, here's a very nice oil painting by Mark Newnhouse of the local church, where I sang very briefly, not solos, but I did sing in there. And I also lived opposite there in 1968. I laid in the garden and listened to Procol Harum singing Whiter Shade of Pale. So there we are. Various write-ups about the houses, which I will not proceed to read out, and a very detailed write-up about Junior. And the literary entertainment by Steve Yolland, who I think is in Australia. Steve, if you're listening, I'd be very interested to know if you continued anything dramatically or songs for the singing. And please get in touch via the college or something. Here we are in the production of Oh, the Lovely War. Oh, what a lovely war. Look out, James has started to sing. We can't have that. Now I'm going to put the line straight back up again, can't we? Here is the much vaunted languages competition. At the end of this, there was somebody, oh my God, Brian, we won. Somebody shouted straight across the Gavin Hall. I know exactly who it was, but I'm not about to say who it was. Here's David Walsh, change the subject quickly, talking about community service. David, I'd like to hear from you again, and I wonder if you're still playing very bad chess. Various trips abroad. Summer trip to Yorkshire, written up by Mark Farabee, both of whom's parents I met latterly in the 1980s at the Winchfield, I was going to say pottery, but it might not be the right word for it. My father also, not knowing there was a Lord Wandsworth connection, went there. I spoke to Mrs. Farabee, who helped him. He was interested in doing painting on silk. And here is the old telephone box with various people. Mark Farabee, Joel Uzansky, Mr. Walton, I'm afraid I don't know his first name. One of these very sort of tall men that didn't say very much. There we are. That was communication in that distant antediluvian age. Here's some rugby players, all of whom I'm going to avoid. Hockey, cricket, cross country. Oh, more cricket, more cricket. Tennis and athletics with Greg Knight and the younger of the Formans and Andrew Kinnard and Hackney NG. They're all running for their lives as if it mattered. Well, it did to them. Don't know who am I to comment. News of Old Sternians. Let's have a look through here then. John O'Gorman, involved in the stock exchange above M. Caldecott. Vide infra. Well, I've got an O level in Latin. C above, presumably. Infra? I don't know. J.C.M. Harrison, who has been in contact with me in the last few days. Hotel management in Sardinia for 6 months after leaving a bank. When it says leaving a bank, do you think it was a sort of nipped in and cashed a check or something? Farmery joined the police force. Well, he was actually on University Challenge, wasn't he? As was Steve Yolland and others, I think Harry Gallagher as well. Guy Austin has just left the bank. It's probably the same bank. They probably saw each other. Now engaged in air traffic control. Yeah, well, that's no pushover. So he obviously got dug in pretty well. Well, that's the post arriving. Do you think I should go and see if the Sternian has arrived? No, you wait there. Don't go away. Yes, it has arrived. There's also some other things which I will not trouble you with. It's a letter from the Building Society. Should I read that out as well? No. Okay, well, this is a blind tasting because I've only just received it. At one time, you had to pay to be in what they then called the old Sterlings, but now you get automatic qualification. If you're old. Here it is, the Sternian. My hands are shaking. Actually, this is important for 2020, so it's last year's. Now, one of the questions that's been asked by a viewer, Mr. Simon Hill of Bulgaria, is, have you put in my oration, my eulogy for RTD, Roger Davies? And I strongly suspect, Simon, brace yourself for a shock. They haven't. I'm going to turn right to the back and see if it's in. There we are. It's a bit pale, doesn't it? The old school coat of arms with horses rampant, presumably, and a crown. If you want to contact the Sternians, their email is sternians@lordwandsworth.org. There we are. And here is the college. I don't think that's a very good picture. I don't mean that disrespectfully, but considering how many. Here's Peter Booth. Looks like he's been on holiday and he's still wearing his pajamas. People say to me, I collect shirts. I can tell that by this wonderful Sartoria elegance, but I do. And there's Peter at the sea. LWC is still buzzing with life, vitality, and optimism. Socially distanced, of course. Yeah, I bet it is. And if you don't believe me, if you live in Long Sutton, nip up there and see what sort of a greeting you get. This is the chairman's letter written by Mr. John Bacon, who I don't know. He was in Sutton. I don't know John. My loss, I'm sure. Here's the headmaster. It's an interview with him. The headmaster looks about 20 years old, but he possibly isn't. And here, where are they now? So you can find out where people are now, including Shelley Lawson, née Wilson Webb. Well, there we are then. It was Jilly Cooper who, in writing about these old girl things, that there's always somebody called née who answers to née Prothero. So there we are. If Lord Wandsworth was a car, what would it be and why? And the answer is a VW Golf, perennial favourite of many, always true to its underlying values, fabulous car, but not flashy. Do you have a motto for life? I will not tell you what Shelley Lawson's motto for life was. And this is Akin Salaka Kulka. And he is from Sutton. And he left in 2008. He looks like he's done pretty well for himself. He's possibly doing pretty well for himself at the college as well. I wish I could say the same, but I can't. Stainen's right for the Oxford History Review. Cecil Rhodes. This is linked in with, possibly inspired by Black Lives Matter. And this is Alvin Boateng. I think I know that name. Well, I might know the name, but I don't know the gentleman concerned. There's various Laura Head with a little babe. Oh, well, I mean, come on. Peter Smith, who left in 1959. And there's Guy Austin again. And here's a horse. I don't know, what year was the horse in Hazelville? Can you remember? Here's the class of 1978. I can't see anybody there. Julian Wright, actually, who contacted me. And Peter Booth and Guy Butchers. Well, if Guy Butchers is in it, it'll be a good laugh and show a proper... Oh, the article, I didn't even realise. It's called Four Sternians and a Racehorse or Two. Guy and his father were racing correspondents. If I call them tipsters, I'll be in trouble. And for a brief period, his parents were my neighbours. They were just through the wall from where we lived. We lived all over the place. Call it living. Anyway, a Guy and his parents, no, not Guy, but Guy's parents lived next door to me in Odium, Cemetery Hill. Here is Mr. and Mrs. Kerr celebrating 150 years. I pointed out that it was their wedding anniversary, and hardly anyone picked up on that, but I think it was on the 1st of April. Subjects taught history, but also English, French, geography, Latin, classics, and computing. Well, that's news to me. Congratulations on 50 years of service. Peter Booth, President of the Sternians Association. Well, that clarifies it neatly, Peter. The Development Office, what a year! Well, it has, I suppose, been okay. Foundation Day. Yeah, I don't think they have Founders Day like we used to. And we used to just go into the Gavin Hall and then our parents used to turn up or something. Mine didn't. LWC Focus, our new series of virtual talks. Yes, I've seen these. They didn't seem to be about the college, but that's just me. Good luck to it. I mean, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't. Here we are. This is the one I was talking about. A law. This is part of LWC Focus on the 11th of May. Rather keen that Jack Whitehead, David Coppin should attend. The guest speakers are Sir Peter Coulson and Sternian LWC Governor, both boys at the Cole, Simon Clements. Somebody's giving a talk about geography, and it's by the headmaster. Can't imagine that being standing room only for that kind of thing. How can you support Lord Wandsworth? Well, they're absolutely scraping the barrel. Shortfall, £100,000. CCF appeal. I didn't think it had that much appeal, particularly when I was an extra parade. James Harrison, if you're listening to this, you should be ashamed of this. No, take that back. Various clubs they've set up. The 1912 Society. I think that's a bit like the Conservative Party 1922 committee. the Quercus Club and the Cedrus Club recognises those members of our community who have made significant gifts of £5,000 or more. I haven't got £5,000 or more. Golf Society, well, that's always well supported, I happen to know. I was trying to learn golf at one time, didn't get anywhere. Here we are, retirement of Jill Kelly, with some people at the pub. I think this is at the regional gathering. I don't know if it says that, but I think it is. She joined in 2002. Nowadays, it's hard for an old guy like me to realise how much work there might be or what she might have done, but there she is. Yeah, see? It's quite a write-up and a nice colour picture. The retirement of Tim Prideaux, who was Sir Humphrey Prideaux's son, I suppose. Class of 2020. It appears to be in meltdown. It appears to be in blue as well. I will not read out all the names, but the most important thing to say is they look to have enjoyed themselves and perhaps be experiencing, perhaps for the first time, some relief. It is possible, ladies and gentlemen, to push yourself too hard. And I speak as somebody that never pushed himself anywhere. Here we have the influence of Sandy Henderson. There's still a mountaineering side to it all. This is the Three Peaks Challenge, which took place last September. And here's Mr. Guy Dodd, who has died, I think. Yes. I think I met Guy in Alton when he was getting a bit confused about the buses. I could be wrong. I've spoken to David Coppin about this, and he was at some pains to say he didn't think it was Mr. Dodd. Well, he was asking me the time, but he was getting very, very agitated. Kim Ridgeon here, talking about leaving in 1974. Kim, if you bung me a tenner, I will not read out these poems that you presumably perpetrated. My Life in Lockdown by Guy Constantine, and he left in 1960. If he left in 1960, it's about time he came back. Story from Lockdown. Oh, A Grand Life, Confessions of an Old School Hotelier in the Digital Age by Patrick Griffin. Oh yes, I knew he'd written this book. Well, that's really nice. There we are. It'd be even nicer if you could go there and have a free meal. But you can't. World Veterans Fencing. Andrew Brown was proud to represent Great Britain in the veterans in Egypt. Patrick Priestley. I remember him very well. And Nigel Appleton, who I remember very well as well. And Chris Letchford, who I remember very well as well. Well, they're saying, Pat was the second year when I joined the school in 1969. A little reminiscence of the gentleman who died. And one by Guy Austin again. No doubt the CCF catapulted him into a military life, which was to be cut short. I don't have the details, but, well, if you read the article, you would have the details, wouldn't you? This is an update from the college. Obviously, they felt that they needed an injection of well-being, it says. Education kite mark. carol service. Heads of college. Well, he's in schoolhouse and she's in park, which is a house. And here are the deputy heads of college with the prefects. Well, I can recognize the school colours. And there they are, handing out sweets. Let's see that the school traditions are being preserved and indeed extrapolated. Coming to the end of the publication now, so don't get too panicky. Here's how the Science Centre is progressing. It should be called the Peter Seelig room. And they're saying Salvete. I wonder how many people even know what that means now. Well, I do. Various people joining. Food service assistant, history teacher. They don't have trogs anymore. I was a bit upset about that. And they're saying goodbye to an absolute line of people. Steve Badger, deputy head. He doesn't look like a man to fall out with, does he? I can't believe this has gone on for over 40 minutes. Something about the farm and the funds trust. In memoriam, people who have died. I think I probably touched on this already. Oh, Simon Coldicott has died. I knew Simon quite well. He lived at the bottom of Hyde Road in the most beautiful house. I was hoping with the help of David Coffin, I still might, to cover his mother's book, Diana Coldicott. He died at the age of 62, which is my age now. Oh, that must, as the saying goes, give us pause. I didn't know that. I didn't know him personally, certainly not latterly. But he did have, I think, at least one, if not two other brothers. Oh, I didn't know that. A point to note for other local men like Simon Clements, who would have known him extremely well. He was in my Cubs, actually. Yes, he was in my Cubs in South Warnborough in 1968, 9 and 70. He was probably my sixer. There we are, with some sadness. Thank you very much. This has been James Pratt, Hazelvere B72, signing off. I should add, perhaps, that they didn't ask me to do this. This is an independent view. This is not what the college told me to say. Adieu.